Chad Moyer with you here on KTIC, and this is JanFest, a farm show virtually on KTICradio.com. And one of our sponsors is Heermann Ag in the Pilger area, and we're visiting with Stephen Heermann. Stephen, thanks for taking the time and visiting with us here today. Before we talk about the exciting world of updating planters and new technologies and things like that, just give us a little background about Heermann Ag. Tell us about the company.
Yeah, we're a custom planter company. Dad started the business in the mid-90s making wide row corn planters into narrow row bean planters. We started using precision planting products on our own farm and saw the advantages we had with them. So that's kind of when we started in the precision planting line of it.
All right. Well, let's get into that. Let's talk about that world as we get into 2021 here. I know there's a lot of exciting things to talk about, but let's maybe just start with the basics, Stephen. You know, when you talk to a producer about updating that planter, maybe this is the first update that planter has seen. Where do you start, Stephen?
Yeah, there's a lot of places to start, but what we like to do is we like to start with the basics of the planter. No matter what you put on the planter, you want that basic row unit to be working as well as it can. So we kind of start by looking at true V's, seed tube guards, parallel arms, the depth stops, mustaches, and then the closing tails. So we want to make sure that the true V's are in good shape. There's a lot of different qualities of true V's anymore. You want to make sure that the bearing pressed in the center is centered in that true V so you don't get any walk with your true V. That creates kind of varied depth through the field. The next thing we look at is the seed tube guards between the true V's. You want to make sure those are in good shape. They're wide enough so you create a good seed trench. A lot of the ones we put on planters anymore are aftermarket. They're just a little bit thicker, a little heavier, so they last longer for you and they create a better seed trench to keep that seed at the depth you want it. We start looking at parallel arms too a lot. It's something that's kind of overlooked on the planter a lot. And kind of with airbags and spring downforce, if you overlook it, you can kind of get away with it because the airbags and the springs kind of let that row unit just ride behind. When you really start getting into hydraulic downforce with your parallel arms, if that parallel arm's loose, that hydraulic cylinder is holding that row unit a lot tighter. And when that parallel arm's loose, it really lets that row unit walk behind and vibrate, and it can create a lot of problems with seed depth and even spacing and seed ricochet in your seed tube. Once you another thing we look at is the depth stop or the mustaches on the planter. Same thing, when those get worn and they're a little bit older, that can vary your depth a lot through the field, and it doesn't give those gauge wheels a nice steady ride. The last thing we look at is closing wheel tails. Those ride on a bushing also. A lot of times guys replace those bushings, but the tails themselves start to get worn. You want to make sure those are tight because as soon as those get worn, it lets that closing tail move side to side on you, and you're never going to quite get your closing wheels to work as well as they need to. Once we kind of look at all of that, though, that's what we look at updating the basics on the planter. Once those are all updated, the sky's kind of the limit on what else we can do.
Yeah, and let's kind of talk about that. Take it from there, Stephen. You know, once you do have a nice foundation built on your planter, what are some of the things that you can do beyond that?
Yeah, once the foundation's in good shape, a lot of things we talk about with guys is first we kind of talk about monitoring systems. A lot of the standard monitors out there just kind of give you seed data, don't give you a lot of excess data. We like guys, once you kind of get our Precision Planting 2020 monitor in the cab, it's hard to go away from it again because it gives you extra information. You know, you got downforce pins on the planter telling you ride on your gauge wheel. It's actually telling you the ride on the row unit, how much bounce you got. It's giving you singulation data. A lot of the newer systems now, you can add smart firmers or flow sensors to see liquid. You can get a lot more information out of that monitor. And once you kind of have that monitor, it gives you the idea of where you need to go and what you need to do to a planter to make it work better. If you have a lot of problems with downforce, that's where, you know, our delta force is our hydraulic downforce. That's where that becomes a big player. If you want shutoffs on the planter, you want to be able to variable rate, and you want a meter that'll singulate over 99% all the time, that's where our V drive comes into play. V-Apply HD is our liquid system, similar to V drives, where you can variable rate with it, and it's row-to-row shutoffs for your liquid. Smart firmer's a big player nowadays, basically for the fact you get more information in the cab while you're planting, and it makes that planter be able to automatically control the planter on the fly. Basically, Smart Firmer gives you temperature, moisture, organic matter, CEC, and trash in the furrow. And that's on the fly through the field from a Smart Firmer running in the furrow like a Keaton would. Something that's been a big player this year, it's newer to precision, is Furrow Force. You can see it behind me here. It's a twin stage closing wheel, and basically it's got a spike in the front, and it's still got like a rubber press wheel in the back. And it can just be run as a base unit, or you can run it sensored, where it gets a pressure reading on your closing tail and can change the airbag pressure through the field, so you get that perfect close all the way across the field. I mean, there's a lot of other things. You can have multi-hybrid planting. We can start talking about, soybean seeding, and when you go lower populations, what kind of needs to be done to meters. But there's a lot of updates a grower can do, and it all kind of comes down to what they need to happen on their farm to get their best yield. And that's where we like starting with that monitor.
Yeah, definitely good thoughts there, Stephen. You mentioned it a couple of times, and it is getting, it's increasing in popularity. There's more talk about it, and that is adding liquid fertilizer to the planter. Is that difficult to do? Something that could be done here yet for this year?
Oh yeah, it's not difficult. It kind of depends on how precise you want to get with liquid on how difficult it becomes. There's a bunch of different options we have. For growers, we've done just a basic system where it's an electric motor running a pump, and you just have a dial in the cab to set the speed. You can run, liquid through a Keaton, and you can kind of see if that's going to pay you back on your farm. For guys that have been running liquid, we got VApply HD, I kind of mentioned earlier. It's row by row control, so it keeps that flow constant across your planter, and it's shutoffs per row, so it gets a lot more accurate for you. As far as how to apply it with a row unit, big one we've had lately is Conceal. And Conceal is a knife that runs in your gauge wheel, and you can run it on one side of the row unit or both, so you can really up your rates of liquid fertilizer on the row. And we've seen good payback with that for guys. When you can really get your nitrogen rates and your phosphorus rates up high, you can see a good payback to it. But it's a very basic component, and there's no bearings or anything with it, like a standard 2x2 disc. It runs on the row unit, so it's right next to your seed, so it doesn't vary when you turn or when you get on hillsides. Another one, when we're talking about band and fertilizer, is we have Furrow Jet, and Furrow Jet runs down in the furrow, kind of like a Keaton would, but it's got wings on it, so it cuts 3/4 of an inch into each side of your seed trench. And you can apply fertilizer through the wings at 3/4 of an inch and in the furrow. So you can up your fertilizer that you're putting instead of just putting it in furrow. So you get a higher rate, but you don't have to worry as much about salt burn.
All right. So a few different options there. Just as we kind of wrap up here, Stephen, there's a lot of different companies out there. There's a lot of people that are involved in precision ag. So, what is it about Heermann Ag that kind of sets you apart from some of the other providers that are out there?
Yeah, basically, we kind of built our business around service. We're farmers ourselves, so we use the same products that a lot of the stuff we sell. So we know it really well. And when you guys are planting late, we're planting late. So we're always around. We're always going to answer the phone. We're always there to help you, because we want our products to work great for you. And we understand ourselves how big service is when you're really in those stressful times of the spring, I guess is the best word for it. And we've been around it a long time. Dad started the business in the mid-90s working on planter units. And him and I were talking the other day. I think I first started helping him tear apart row units when I was 7. So we got a little bit of experience with it, and we just want to make sure that planter pass for you in the spring is a great pass, and we're going to be there behind any product we'd sell, and we're going to back it, and we're going to be there to help you with it.
I know we have the contact information up on the website, but just in case, how do we get a hold of you?
The easiest way to find us is to see us on Facebook at Heermann Ag with 2 E's and 2 N's.
Sounds good. Stephen, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we've been visiting with Stephen Heermann with Heermann Ag there in the Pilger area. Your connection to precision planting technology, and again, look around their booth here at the JanFest Farm Show here on KTICradio.com. I'm Chad Moyer reporting.